they are very far through the development process at present. It really isn't that far off from what we have been led to believe, and I think that is probably going to be the next big gacha, if I'm being honest.
Ooh.
Waifus over meta.
Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I have a special guest. You guys might know him as MMOByte, aka Stix. Say hello.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Yeah, and so I'm really excited to have him on today. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Starting off though, I wanted to ask you, Stix, where does the name MMOByte come from?
So, I come from a very MMO background. I grew up with MMOs. They were my little escape from reality. Basically, when I used to search for guides on how to do things online, there were websites or YouTube channels like MMO Bomb, MMO Hut, MMO, you know, whatever other word they could fit in there. And I thought to myself, you know what? These are all like 20, 40 hour long videos. I could create videos in a much smaller, more condensed format, a bite-sized format. So MMOByte came into being.
What MMO did you start off then? Like, what was your first MMO ever?
Tales of Pirates or Pirate King Online, depending on whether you played the Chinese version or the global version. I played a Crusader, and I was the #1 Crusader on the Phoenix server, which was a server I played on for 2 years.
Whoa, wait, so what year did that game come out?
I feel personally attacked here, but it was like 2007, I think.
No, it's okay. I played Maple Story, but Maple Story is like early 2004, I think, maybe. So
Yep.
not too bad. You know, we have our games here and there. And then RuneScape is like 2001, I think.
Yeah, it was like late 90s, early 2000s. I never got into RuneScape. I was always a WoW fanboy, you know, World of Warcraft.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that... So I was very poor as a kid, and I couldn't afford a WoW subscription, so I played WoW private servers. Until about 2008, when I finally got an active subscription to Wrath of the Lich King. And from that moment onwards, I was sold. Like, that was my game. I've had an active subscription to WoW since 2008, at the beginning of the Wrath of the Lich King expansion.
What was the expansion like, I guess? Because, I mean, I've never played WoW myself, but I have thought about it only recently because I was like, oh wow, it's like a classic MMO that I have never tried out before.
The best experience you can imagine. The fastest, most fluid tab target combat, the most hardcore PvP you will find. Like, open world PvP, not battlegrounds, or unless you there are certain battlegrounds like Alterac Valley. I'm sure people that played WoW know about that. Like, those battlegrounds could last days. They, like, the open world experience of that game has yet to be recaptured since. And, like, just leveling on PvP servers, camping people, being camped by people, creating skirmishes between the Horde and the Alliance, the incredible narrative for Wrath of the Lich King, the build-up from, you know, the Warcraft franchise before that, like Warcraft 3, and then Warcraft 3, The Frozen Throne, that told the story of Arthas and Sylvanas and the Lich King and everything, like, that just all built up to this culmination of what was arguably absolute perfection at the time. And
wow.
Yeah, I have very good things to say about WoW. A lot of terrible things as well, but like, I mean, I feel like that's the case for every game.
Yeah, I think with like a lot of MMOs, they always come with like pros and cons. So like for me, Maple Story, I thought it was like really cute, really fun, but then like leveling and resources kind of hard, and then the cash shop, it's like gachapon for like cosmetics. People don't really consider gacha, but like, you did have to spend money and you had to roll. So like, Maple Story is fun. I loved it. But then it was just like kind of like a power grind thing. And then the next MMO I played was Perfect World Mobile.
Oh,
and yeah, I played Perfect World Mobile.
International. Perfect World International here.
Wait, have you played that as well? Like, how long have you played that for?
I played Perfect World International from 2009 to 2012. And I spent way too much money in that game.
Did they also have like the tank DPS healer system, like the fairy?
Barbarian, Blade Master, Wizard, archer, winged elf, which was a cleric, and there's one I'm missing. I don't remember what it is.
I remember.
Venomancer. There we go.
Oh yeah, I only remember like 3 classes from mobile. It's the barbaric, which was like a tiger, like some big buff tiger, the cleric, the fairy, and then like the DPS. But I don't remember any of the classes. So yeah, I played that one, but then they eventually merged CN with global servers, and then I'm pretty sure like I played some other games. Oh, Black Desert a little bit, and then Tower Fantasy. That's how we met actually. That's how I found.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tower Fantasy. A lot of good memories from there. A lot of, I guess, not so great as well. And then Throne and Liberty was my latest MMO that I played.
What'd you think of Throne and Liberty? I got like, I don't know, I played maybe like 8 hours and then I quit. I was like, this is so boring.
It's PvP based, and I think that's like one thing that when I was coming into Throne, I did not know it was PvP, which I should have, because I like PvE. So like that's why I love Tower Fantasy, because it's just very PvE friendly. Same with like the other games too. But I play with my community and it made it fun. I liked the grinding for the mobs. The story was kind of decent, I'm not gonna lie. I like the plot a lot. I do like that the weapon at least was very flexible. You could play pretty much anything you wanted. So like you can have staff on one hand, a sword and shield in the other, or like a great sword in the other, or like a dagger in the other. It's just like there's just so many builds that you could do weapon wise, so that's what I liked about it. But it was PvP, so like at nighttime, if you were in the dungeon, you would die because someone would farm you, you know. And then the power creep level from like whales to free to play was just the gap was just too big, you know. And like
Korean
the whales
game.
are doing, yeah. I had no idea it was a Korean game first, and it turned out like the Korean version of Throne is super grindy because we're like slowly catching up to them. Not really, but there's like a new update, and I stopped playing since the new update because it was just like too grindy for me. So, yeah, it was fun while I played it. You know, for like 2 months, I had almost 300 hours on it. Yeah, I know. I had 300 hours, and I was like so obsessed. I played after stream and everything.
Wow.
But yeah, no, that's my journey as an MMO player. But now I'm a gacha player. I love gacha.
Same here. Every content creator, almost every MMO content creator I know, has transitioned over to 2 different types of game. One, gacha games, because gacha games offer a lot of what MMOs offer, you know, large open worlds like WUWA, Genshin, Tower Fantasy. They offer a specific type of combat, the daily questing, the daily grind, the repetitious gameplay loop. And then the other game type is survival multiplayer games. Things like Pal World, Valheim, V Rising. Because again, that captures a lot of the, what made MMOs fun and special. That was I think the focus on the multiplayer aspect of the game, and that required more than one person to work together in unison to accomplish a goal. So the people that really wanted the multiplayer aspect of the MMO moved to co-op survival games, and then the people that wanted the exploration, the gameplay loop and everything moved on to gacha games. And that's pretty much it. Like that, almost every MMO content creator I know has either quit or changed genres entirely.
What would you say, like, where would you put yourself in those 2 categories? Like, you could be in the middle.
No, I played the War Within expansion for WoW when it launched. Mrs. Six and I played it for, I think, like 2 months. We consumed all the content we could, did every raid, every dungeon on every difficulty, all the Mythic Plus dungeons, literally cleared every single thing we could. And then after like a month and a half, 2 months, we, burned out because there's nothing else to do that we hadn't already done. So that was the only MMO either of us have played. No, that's a lie. We did play Dawn Trail very briefly, the Final Fantasy XIV expansion. And our opinion of that was not great. We are huge fans of Shadowbringers and Endwalker, but after Endwalker, Dawn Trail was just, it took a nosedive in terms of I don't know, quality, storytelling, character, personalities, like the detached focus from you as a main character was really unusual for Final Fantasy XIV. So that was it. There were the 2 MMOs we played pretty much over the entire last year. Other than that, we have played dozens of gacha games and gotten really invested in so many of them, like Girls Front 2, WUWA, Zenless, Star Rail, Reverse 1999, AFK Journey, like so many. I think I'd say I'm now much more of a gacha gamer.
Oh my god, like the moment you mentioned AFKJ, like I forgot about it. I was so obsessed with the AFK Journey. Just because like for some reason the gameplay, like something about it was just really nice. And then season 2 happened and then I stopped. I was like, oh, I didn't like the update.
Yeah,
season 2.
I feel like a lot of people did at that point.
Yeah. Oh, at that time though, I will say WUWA also came out and whatnot. So like, what would you say is your current like top gacha games at the moment?
Oh, games plural? Okay.
Yeah, game or games. Like maybe top 3 if you can, if you want to.
No, I answer this all the time in comments and on stream. My number 1 favorite is Nikke because of the storytelling. I think it has an incredible story that a lot of people misinterpret as just being a booba game. I think Arknights comes in at number 2, definitely, because of its storytelling and its fantastic like world building that it's done. And I'm also a huge fan of tactical gameplay. And then number 3 would be Guardian Tales. Or was Guardian Tales until Rinascita came out, and now like WUWA's taking the number 3 spot. But like it's a toss-up between Guardian Tales and WUWA because 2.0 has been absolutely insane in terms of quality. Such a, a 180. And I am, so proud of Kudo for actually achieving something this good. Especially given how underwhelming the first 3 chapters of 1.0 were, and the reception that 1.0 kind of received at the time. And then Guardian Tales, because it is the most, I don't know, like lighthearted, very fast, very action-packed, incredibly humorous, also free to play friendly, I don't know, like very narrative driven gacha game. And I'm a big narrative guy. I love stories, and if your story sucks, I'm gonna stop playing.
Oh. You had tweeted out, if you're new to the gacha genre, what gacha game would you recommend to new players to start with between Genshin and WUWA? And I actually want to ask you before that, like, have you played Genshin since the beginning? Are you currently playing it? Are you up to date?
I don't know if you know who Cry is, but he and I go way back. He was the first content creator to reach out to me, to recognize me, and to help me get my first sponsorship. He and I were the first content creators to cover Genshin Impact within the hour of its trailer dropping. Both he and I did a dedicated video that went on to garner 100,000 plus views each. The game was perceived, falsely, but perceived to be an MMO, which is why both he and I covered it, because we're both MMO YouTubers, or were at the time. And we covered the various stages of development that it went through, every beta test leading to launch. I streamed and did dedicated videos on every test phase. I played day 1, and then I played all the way till the final 2.x patch of Inazuma. And then I stopped before 3.0, which was Sumeru, and that is because I got into Arknights. They sponsored me, and they wanted me to like devote a lot of time to the game. And at the time, I was like, I can't juggle Genshin and this right now, so I put Genshin on the back burner for like a week or 2, and then I got into Arknights, and I was like, this is a really fun game. And that like broke me into the gacha genre, because until that point, and a lot of MMO players still have this misconception, but gacha games, I thought, were just crappy mobile games like Lineage M, Lineage Revolution, Blade and Soul M, Blade and Soul Revolution, all those really crappy little top-down isometric autoplay, pay-to-win grinders. So when I played Genshin, I was like, holy crap, this is a freaking game. And at the time, like, even to this day, I think Genshin is a phenomenal game. And I think it does a lot of things incredibly well, and still does numerous things better than any other gacha game out there. But that being said, it definitely shows its age, and I did go back to it recently. I logged into my like level 57 or 58 account, and I realized, God, this just feels awful to play.
Yeah, it has. I definitely think like after 4, it's gonna be 5 years this year too. You know, like it's gonna show its age. But like in the beginning with Genshin, like when I played it as well, it was like such a refreshing feeling. Like everyone was immersed into it. They loved it. Exploring was just so fun. But that being said, now that WUWA is recently out, because it's what approaching its 1 year anniversary in like a few months.
Yeah, it's been out for 7 months so far. Yeah.
Yeah, we see that there's a lot of changes that they have made that, well, okay, not changes. Well, actually changes now in 2.0 especially, but they definitely cater like a much more faster paced environment, especially in exploring the open world and whatnot. So I guess like my question would be, would you still recommend Genshin now or no?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I think Genshin is still a really good game, and I think while, Wuthering Waves is definitely a faster paced game, that doesn't make it inherently better, right? Because there are people that think Punishing Grey Ravens got combat that is faster and more fluid and more responsive than WUWA, but at the end of the day, having faster combat doesn't make you a better game. Having better graphics doesn't make you a better game. Having a better story doesn't make you a better game. But what Genshin does, right, is that it has good everything. It doesn't have the best everything, right? There are games that look better. Zenless looks better. Star Rail looks better. WUWA looks better. ANANTA looks better. A lot of games look better now. A lot of them play better. Multiple of them, like Star Rail and Zenless, have better stories, right? Better voice acting, like a better world. So many things that they do better. But Genshin still does everything that it did well before. It still does well now. So if you're looking to get into the if you're looking to get into the genre and you're like, well, I want something that isn't necessarily going to overwhelm me, then Genshin is still a fantastic starting point. And it was interesting that there wasn't a single person, I think, in like 300 comments, or maybe there were like 3 actually in 300 comments, that said Genshin is a good starting point. And those 3 people only said it was a good starting point because they said Genshin is a kid's game. And that I don't know. I always get a laugh out of that because I feel like Genshin is still a very deep, very, like, not overly complex, but still very, it is a deep game with a lot of mechanics that you don't see in the vast majority of other gacha games. So,
yeah.
Starting with Genshin and then moving to something more complex like WUWA in terms of combat or, the speed at which the game progresses and plays at. Genshin is a good starting point, and then moving onwards and up to WUWA is a good next, like a good stepping stone. And then with everything else coming out, like there's going to be a lot of variety. And I think if you haven't already and you're new to the genre, then there really isn't a better game that is more, and I don't mean this offensively to Genshin, but more simple, like simplistic and easy than Genshin. That is also an open world game with action combat. So
yeah, no, what you said was like perfect. Personally, for me, I always say like for new players, if they want something that's because Genshin's 4 years in making, there's obviously like a lot of story. There's a lot of lore to look at, that they should start with that. And then with WUWA, it's like I think the combat is so different than like Genshin. So I always say like, oh, if you want like something kind of fast paced in combat. Because I'm not gonna lie, WUWA, when I first played it, especially in the closed beta, I felt like WUWA reminded me of Tower Fantasy a lot. Just okay,
don't say that. Don't say that.
No, I know. Okay, I have like a bad habit of mentioning it, but like I remember in closed beta, I was like, oh wow, like the combat is fast. Like that's the thing. Like it's the slash. It's kind of flashy. It's appealing to the eyes. So yeah, I was like, oh, Genshin is like elemental fuse. It's still really cute. I think exploring, there's like something about it, like the simplicity. It's so like, for me, it feels nostalgic whenever I open up Genshin again and play it. And then WUWA is like a different vibe, So yeah, both are great games to start with, honestly, like you had mentioned.
They really are. They're both very good games, but in different ways. People like to, they like to compare them and be like, oh, WUWA's better in this area, and then Genshin players are like, but Genshin's better in this area. It's like, dude, they're both good in literally the vast majority of areas. They're just very different kinds of games. They occupy a similar style of game, like they are open world, they have action combat, they have voice acting, they have characters that you obtain through gacha, but like other than the bare basis of the game, they're still very different games that appeal to very different demographics of players. So
Are you currently caught up in Genshin and story?
no, I haven't gone beyond Sumeru 3.0.
Oh, okay. You know what? It's fair. It's fair. I was like, there's a lot to like uncover, and then you explore the world too and whatnot. So yeah, no, I was just curious because I mean, I don't know. I was like, WUWA's still within its first year. It hasn't even reached like its like first anniversary, so it's still easy to catch up. Especially like they've added like a lot of stuff. But that was just a curious question on my end that I wanted to know.
Like I do know all the the I guess drama that goes on with Genshin, concerning like traversal abilities that are locked to single characters and everything. So, I keep up to date with that because unfortunately my feed is absolutely polluted with drama all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty much unavoidable, both on YouTube, Twitter, anywhere really. Even maybe TikTok if you're on TikTok. So yeah, it can't be avoided. I actually had a question for you, and the question would be, what for new players, what should they know coming into gacha games? Because when people start playing gacha games, they have no idea what to expect. They just see anime, it's appealing, it's aesthetic. What should they know?
That you're gonna need a really deep pocket because you're gonna spend so much money. You're not gonna want to. You're gonna go into this with the thought that I'm not gonna spend anything, and then you're gonna start playing it. You're gonna be like, oh, that character looks so pretty. Oh, those effects are so beautiful. Oh, this is so stunning. Oh, this is gonna, like when I went into gacha, the very first time, like when I played Arknights, I was like, oh, okay, I can buy this $5 VIP membership, right? No. That rewards you with, I don't know, because it's like 90 sanity extra per day, along with, I don't know, like 100 orandom, I think is the currency. And Genshin is the same, WUWA is the same. They all offer these $5 packs that provide you extra stamina or extra currency for logging in. It's like, it's only $5. It is worth it. I could just not get a Big Mac at McDonald's this month, and that'd be fine. And then it goes from that $5 investment. Oh, this little upgrade is gonna totally be worthwhile. It's another $5. Here's $2.99. There's $3.99. Oh, this incredible sale is going on. That's gonna save me a ton if I just spend the $99.99 one time. And then before you know it, you've spent $5,000 in the game.
Yes. Oh my gosh. When I was playing AFKJ, they always hit you with the $1 deal. By the way, it's like 1,000% like worth it. You should buy it. And then it's like, okay, you swipe. And then they keep hitting you with the same deals again. Like, oh, this packet is $5. Oh, it's $3. It's like random RNG every single time. But yeah, a lot of people who join into gacha games, I feel like they do have the mindset of like, oh, some of it, like, yeah, I might need to spend, but obviously there are like free to plays. And then it kind of like, eventually they either give in or they end up resenting the game because it's like, oh, now I have to swipe to keep up.
Yeah, it's not free to play friendly, or the alternative is, oh, I spend money on it now. So, yeah. But it is typically really, really worth it. Like in Wuthering Waves, right? You spend $5 for that VIP membership, you get 2,700 asteroids per month, right? It costs 3,200, or it costs 1,600 for a 10 pull. So 3,200 for 2 10 pulls. Right? That costs what, $40, $50 typically? With that $5 pack, you're getting almost 2 10 pulls for $5. Like that is so unbelievably worthwhile. And these tiny little purchases are what get you. And so many people, like, they don't understand going into it that you're going to be tempted repeatedly, and the majority of people aren't going to be able to refrain from taking advantage of those temptations. And these are games that, they mess with your mind. They know how to force you to spend money. And at the end of the day, You're going to. You're either not going to play the gacha or you're going to spend money. It's that simple.
Now that more games are coming out, one of the things I've been seeing is a lot of people coming in and they're like, oh my god, Rubee, I'm overwhelmed. Like, where do I start? What do I do? So with that being said, now what is one advice you would suggest for all new gacha gamers, aside from having a deep pocket?
Like when it comes to
Like playing
starting a specific game or just generally?
It could be specific or general. I think maybe general would be a little bit easier.
I think for me, when it came to gacha games, and when it comes to gacha games in general, and I know a lot of people are very vocal about this, but I think that playing and experiencing a game for what the game is worth for the first time, without looking at guides, without trying to have meta builds, without being told what to do or how to play, is the best way to play the game. I think people go into gacha games with the mentality that they need to be the best. They need to spend days re-rolling to get that, that one special character that's going to give them a 3% increase in raw damage output or something, and it ruins the game for them. I think part of, and this goes back to my MMO roots actually, but I think part of what makes a gacha game enjoyable, and a lot of people tend to feel this way, is the journey. So everything that you do, exploring the world for the first time, being introduced to characters for the first time, experiencing the combat and the unique intricacies that make each game, unique. I think experiencing all of that and getting to consume all of that content for the first time without outsider influence is imperative to a lot of players' enjoyment in a game, because a lot of players have their experiences ruined. Right, like if you go into, I don't know, Honkai Impact, and they're like, you need these, I don't know how many people characters you can deploy in Honkai Impact, like 3 or 4, but if they're like, you need these 3 characters to enjoy the game, then you're going to spend hours or days failing, or daily any game that has a re-rolling system really, but you're going to spend days and days failing. You're going to get frustrated. You're not going to get to pull for the characters you like. You're not going to get to experience everything yourself, and it's going to, I think, overall be more of a deterrent than anything, or a detriment rather, to your enjoyment of the game. And I know there are some people that love guides and that love meta builds from the get-go, but I think a lot of people ruin their introductory experience in games by over analyzing the game rather than enjoying it. So what I always tell people, because like with regards to Nikke, with regards to Wuthering Waves, they're like, hey Stix, should I skip the story? Just click the skip button repeatedly and get to current content. It's like, no, you really shouldn't. Skipping is fine if you hate story in games, but that story, even if it starts off very slow and kind of mediocre, if we're being honest, it still, gets you enthralled in the world, and it captivates you, and then you understand the basis of everything, what everything means and what everything does. And overall, like, one of the things that keep people playing long term is the connection that they have with the game, with the world, and with the characters. That's why Genshin is such a success. It's why Star Rail is such a success, because they can relate to and enjoy the characters and the world overall. While other games like Tower of Fantasy fail because their world is not enjoyable. Their characters don't have the same depth or complexity that Genshin characters do. So the consumption and the rate of consumption, and then the over-reliance on outsider influence and sources, I think, is one of the main bits of advice I can give new players. Don't overly focus or fixate on that, and just get in the game and enjoy it, every bit of it you can.
For me, my advice would be like to play the main story quest, because I think maybe in this day and age, like obviously you have Zoomers now, people have like lower retention or attention span, so they just want to skip through it. But like for me, playing the main story quest, even when you first start out, will literally guide you like how to play the game, tutorial, and of course, like you had mentioned, it will immerse you into the world, which will form like a deeper connection with the game, and then you feel like you're like one with the world at one point because you're playing as MC. So yeah, no, you gave a perfect advice. And then of course with the whole meta guide stuff, it's not bad, but I do think it does create kind of like a, not like a burden, but like there's a thing in the back of your mind like, oh, I have to play meta or else I suck at this game, or like, oh, I need to get this character or else I'm gonna struggle, you know. So I guess another advice for me would be like, aside from playing main story and playing like the tutorial, is to play however you want to enjoy it, really, to make like the experience of playing this gacha game a lot better, like you had mentioned.
Waifus over
yeah.
meta.
Yes, yeah, waifus over meta. Because like the thing is like, I'm not a meta person, but I do find myself like over time, even though I collect waifus, suddenly like as a streamer, I'm like, oh, maybe I should learn how to play meta, you know? But then like the pressure of getting perfect relics, perfect artifacts, you know, trying to find the perfect combo, playing it right, like kind of stresses me out because at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, I'm still clearing. But then like, do I need to follow like a certain path to do it right? Or should I just like play however? Because I'm still clearing, you know? Just curious, did you play WUWA Story as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm about a third through the third act.
Oh, okay. So obviously no spoilers here. Earlier in the very beginning, you had mentioned 1.0 versus 2.0 in WUWA. I want to hear your thoughts about it and like the difference. Obviously, we all know that Kuro really stepped up. Like I think the voice acting, the scene, the animation, like literally, I think WUWA is just like, it gives me chills thinking about how much they have improved because you can see that these devs, they are taking feedback constantly, paying attention to what we're saying. So I just want to know like your overall thoughts on 1.0 versus 2.0, and then I'll ask more questions later.
So the state of WUWA right now is that it's actually it's terrible. It's a cheap knockoff and is a complete trash game, according to a specific community.
Hey, yeah, that's a perfect intro. Wait a minute. Okay, I'm kidding. Okay. All right, continue.
No, I've actually loved every bit of 2.0. I was actually, I played, I think, 3 different test phases for Wuthering Waves before it launched. So I played like every incarnation of the game it's had. And with 1.0, there were haters that went into this saying, they should have stuck to the OG story because it was so much better. And I played the OG story. I don't think it was better. I played 1.0 and acts 1 through 3 were tedious, they were arduous, but they were world building and character building. So I think that while slow, they were still necessary, and it was imperative that they introduced all of these different aspects of the game and characters that could grow alongside you, which admittedly in 2.0 no longer exists. Like what happened to Yang and Chisha and Baizha and everyone, they're just, you know, God knows where at this point. But, you know, there was a lot of world building that laid the foundations of what could have been a really good game if they continued to build on that appropriately and sufficiently. Act 4, you got to see that there was actually a semblance of competence there, because Acts 1 through 3 really didn't showcase that. With the introduction of Alto and Encore in Act 4, and then Act 5, or were Alto and Encore introduced in Act 5? I forget. Either way.
You're listing acts, and I'm like, I actually don't know, but I remember. No, I think it's Act 4. Because Act 5 was Jinshi.
So, and then in the final act, with the introduction of Jian, and then the whole Avengers Assemble scene, which was really out of place and really weird, like, the rest of it, like, what was Yuan Wu doing there, right?
Oh my god, I said Jinshi, but I meant Jian. Oh my god, yeah, no, I don't remember the acts, but I remember like the story, yeah.
Yeah, so then the final act of 1.0 was Jian and his introduction. That was like an entirely different experience. The storytelling, the voice acting, everything was, you know, like kudo, but then amplified. And then they introduced 1.0, which was the introduction of Changli. And the story of 1.1 with Mount Firmament was actually very well told, and actually showed people, you know, there is talent there. It's mostly untapped at this point, but there is a lot of talent there. 1.2 happened, 3, 4, everything moved through nicely. We're introduced to lots of new characters, and they continued to improve, but overall, they were still, I think, like highly limited in terms of what they were exhibiting. And then 2.0 hit, and you're like, this went from what was a gacha game to a non-gacha game in terms of story and storytelling. like I don't know if you've noticed this, but there have been a lot of people that have been making comparisons with 2.0 to, you know, like a AAA game or like a console game or something, saying that the story of Wuthering Waves, like the areas and the voice acting and everything, has been, you know, the equivalent of a AAA game rather than what was before a mobile or a gacha game in terms of quality. And that really shows, like, getting voice actors like the voice actor from
Yes.
Baldur's Gate 3,
Yes.
the voice acting in 2.0 just, it makes 1.0, even the storytelling makes 1.0 look like an indie game.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed 1.0 for what it's worth. I enjoyed all of the 1.x patches, but if they had started with 2.0, I like with the I feel like the competency that they now possess with 2.0, I think this would have been received entirely differently. But at the same time, even though I do find a lot of faults with the, you know, the 1.0 story, and a lot of players, Genshin players specifically, seem to think that comparatively to Genshin 1.0, it was vastly inferior. People have nostalgia goggles on because they believe for whatever reason Genshin 1.0 was this, you know, monolith of perfection, when the reality is I played Genshin 1.0, I enjoyed it, but it was still, like, by today's standards, a very average game. It got really good over time, but it built up to that point. It didn't start off really good.
Yeah. I think because Genshin has been in development for like 3 to 4 years, when WUWA came out, people had the expectations of current Genshin. But like we all forget that like when Genshin first came out, it was slower because I actually played Genshin upon release, but this was before I started streaming. And then my friend and I, we both stopped, and she was like, yeah, there's nothing to do now. Like I did everything I could. And then so obviously I came back again later, and then like, you know, it kind of builds up. But yeah, a lot of people were harsh in comparing WUWA at the beginning when it first came out. You talked about how you were playing WUWA in beta. I actually wanted to know, like, did you like the OG story? Because in closed beta, I think, was it Yang Yang or Chisha, like, or Dungeon? There was a character that was really cold, and I remember people were like saying how in closed beta, like, no one liked Rover, but then after the story came out, people like, it feels like a Rover's having a harem. You know, do you remember the story by any chance?
I remember parts of the story.
Yeah, there wasn't much to it, but I do remember the characters were. Yeah. No, I do remember the characters were a lot colder.
I think overall the entire aesthetic was colder, like darker, colder, grittier. Yeah. But evidently that doesn't necessarily appeal to as large a demographic of player, because if you look at, you know, all the popular games, they're all bright and vibrant. You look at all the popular upcoming games, they're all bright and vibrant. So Kudo evidently learned from that. And while the story was arguably very different, and, you know, it seemed much more desperate, you know, clinging for hope and everything, and I don't know, like, much darker. I think the story was also really, like, told kind of poorly, like 1.0 was, like the first several chapters were, because I remember Mrs. Stix and I played through it.
In like closed beta, right?
Or yeah, like, in closed beta. Okay. I think like the before release, and then the beta before that, before they'd done all the drastic overhauls due to the negative reception from Chinese players or whatever that sparked them altering the first several chapters and everything. Mrs. Stix and I played through that, and we're like, this story is actually not very good. And Kudo was actually sponsoring me at the time, and I was like, I feel bad because I'm gonna come out and say that while the beta was fun, the story is shit, and that's probably gonna like inhibit my like future sponsorship opportunities with them. And you know, when 1.0 launched and the first 3 chapters came out and everyone was like, oh, the OG story was so much better, I just kind of sat there like, no, it wasn't. It really wasn't better. The majority of people I spoke to, the other content creators I spoke to that were playing the beta, they all said, man, this story sucks. And it wasn't until after 1.0 came out that people were like, no, the story was so much better. And the reason why people were thinking it was better is because the story for 1.0 just wasn't very good. and they were, for whatever reason, led to believe that the story was better in, you know, the previous beta test when it really wasn't.
Was it not the same? Because I played it in beta, but I didn't play it the first beta they had. I played it with like the latest one before the official release. And the latest one before the official release was like almost similar.
No, it was definitely different.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah. I think I probably still have my my video from the original beta I played, and even the live streams for it up.
Yeah, I was like, I was going through my PC and I had like a really old recording of the first beta, but then it was just like gameplay. So I was like, oh, there's not story. So I like never really knew what the original story was like. But I do remember that Ling Ning was a full-on furry. He was
Yeah.
General Abu.
And then they also censored Yinlin. So
Really?
she used to be a lot dirtier.
Oh, dang.
Mrs. Stix actually, I think she had a short or
Like scandalous, huh?
she had some very suggestive lines in there that Mrs. Stix tweeted. I think she tweeted a comparison of what they were and then what they were in the beta and then what they were at launch, and she was absolutely gutted that they killed her, you know, her dommy mommy personality that was exhibited during the beta. So there are a lot of changes made to a lot of characters, a lot of story and everything.
Thinking back, like there was a lot of changes, but now like there's it's still good changes, you know, especially 2.0 with Rina Sita, and I think that Crow is just gonna keep going from there on. They definitely, if they had started WUWA with 2.0, I feel like the bar would have been set so high. So like to see the changes from 1.0 to 2.0 is like really nice, because then now it's like obviously now the bar is set, and I think they'll just keep improving from here on out.
But
I think
sorry, go on.
I feel like there's like it could go really well or like really well and then bad quickly, you know. So I feel like seeing a development of WUWA over time, especially now 2.0, it feels good. Like I don't know, I just, maybe in my mind I know that they're watching, they're constantly taking feedback, so I just know that from there on it'll be going up.
Yeah, so how I like to see it is Wuthering Waves launched in the state it was in, and then over time have showed that they are a competent developer that listens to the feedback of their community and have made ample improvements to the game every single patch to make it into a game that the players enjoy. If they released it in 2.0, they wouldn't have been able to build a reputation of listening to the community and listening to feedback and making a lot of improvements. Therefore, the reception of the studio overall might have been entirely different. So now when people perceive Kudo, they perceive them as a company that is, you know, rewarding for players. They perceive them as a company that actually respects their players' time. And that is completely different to something like Hoyo with, or not Hoyo specifically, but Hoyo with regards to Genshin, where they made very little in terms of improvements over time. But like they have made a lot of improvements with Star Rail, and they made even more improvements with Zenless. So, you know, different subdivisions of the company clearly do care about their games very differently. But if they had launched in a good state, but then didn't really have the opportunity to make amends and then improve like they did, then it just would have been, it received entirely differently. But now the studios are being held to a higher standard, right? So when companies do something, or gacha studios do something, players expect them to address it. They expect them to make a public statement. They expect them to make quality of life alterations. And that is because of Kudo. That is not because of, you know, that's not because Kudo launched the game in a complete state that they didn't need to improve on. It's because they did need to improve on it, and they showed that they can, and they showed a willingness to, that now other studios have to do that or fail. It's that simple. So it's a new standard, essentially.
Yeah, new standard, pretty much. And of course, I just want to like clarify for those watching, we're using Genshin just because Genshin's another like popular game. I'm a tourist myself, so I don't really know any other games that are like of similar. So like Genshin just helps me out. Just for those watching, if they're like, oh my god, they're talking about Genshin so much. Just wants to be clear on that.
I love Genshin Impact. It is a really good game, and I know Rubee also enjoys it.
Actually, a lot of people don't know that I played Genshin a lot when I first started. It's still my most streamed game on Twitch because that's all I played back then. And then now I just do like the quests and stuff offline. I'm still up to date. I did the recent patch, so I
5.3.
thought like I thought we could talk about it, but then I'll save it if you ever catch up.
I will. I actually have a video series on a separate channel that I have, Stix Plays, called The Worst Gacha Ever, where I go through all these different gacha games. I devote as much time to each gacha as I can. And I'm definitely going to have to get back into Genshin and complete the entire thing so I can do a full dedicated review of 1.0 through 5 or 6 whatever by the time the video goes live.
Oh, that's gonna be a long time for sure.
Without a skip button, yeah.
Yeah, and you still have to play through and level up and like fight stuff. So yeah, and I know like when you watch this playthroughs on YouTube, they shorten it down so much, but then you forget that like you do have to play the game, and then there's side questing too and whatnot. But I hope you enjoy it nonetheless. It's a very like immersive experience.
No, like I said, it is, it does a lot of things great. It doesn't do anything perfect, and there are different games that are better in different areas than it, but it does a lot of things really well. And it doesn't matter how many times I go back to it, like I still always enjoy it. I just hate running around in it because it feels terrible. That is like the one drawback I have to playing it. The fact that, it costs stamina to run, the fact that you can't really, for a lot of the game anyway, speed up your movement. Like it feels very limiting. So I'll very much so enjoy going back to it and doing a dedicated video on it, because it's still arguably one of the highest quality, best gacha games out there. Undeniably.
I have to agree. I always have Yelan or Ayaka, and now like Mualani on my team, and of course Shilonen, she like skates. But yeah, I always have to have like one of those characters in my team so I can travel a lot faster. So I feel that. I wanted to go back a little bit on WUWA because we were talking about it, and I forgot to mention. Have you done the recent survey that they had released? It's the one.
Sorry, go on.
It's the one. No. I see a reaction. It's the one where they're asking. It's almost like building your own character. Have you done that?
I have not done the survey, but I have seen all the tweets and the Reddit threads made about it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, do you care if I spoil it for you? Because I just wanted to ask. Like,
go for it.
Oh, okay. So obviously in the feedback they asked like what type of characters you like, and it goes from adult female to like young. But then they go into like personality traits and stuff. Basically, almost like building your own character, and then they talk about weapon. What would you want to see in WUWA as like a new character? It could be inspired from like another anime or gacha. But yeah, they had like personality traits. What type, if you want them to be like emotionally stable or like aggressive.
So not Camellia.
Yeah. There's just like so many types, tsundere, chuni, like there's just like the possibilities is endless. And then they also end up with like what weapon, like what new weapon would you want to see in the game? So if you were to build like a character, I guess in WUWA, what would you want to see? There's also a furry and mech. They also asked about furry and mech. Oh, also and environment.
Which is really weird.
Oh yeah,
Furries and
it was
mechs.
like, yeah, no, it was like, oh, if this character had animalistic features, how like much would you like it from 0 to 10? And then same with mech, like mechas. Do you want to see like a animatronic robotic 0 to 10? And then I thought the environmental area was cool because they had like space, cyberpunk, alien, rainforest, So I guess my question is like, what new character concept would you want to see? Yeah, a summoner.
A summoner, yeah. A character that actually summons not just one, but like unique creatures that all have their own. Like right now, you know how you can equip a main echo, and then when you click your Q, it summons the echo, or your E, it summons the echo, and it does like a cool ability and everything, and then it just like retracts back into you. So I think a summoner would be really cool to be able to actually use your own abilities, but to summon an echo, or not even an echo, maybe summon like one of several different creatures. So I don't know if you played Final Fantasy X, the one with Yuna and Tidus, but in it, as a summoner, she could summon things like Ixion and Veilfor and Ifrit and all these different creatures. And as someone that grew up in Final Fantasy and that had a summoner class in a lot of different JRPGs, I think having the ability to both control yourself and maybe, the character doesn't need to be that powerful, but also being able to have a summon that you could actually summon into existence that fills various different roles, right? You could have a ranged summon, a close range melee summon, a tanky summon, a support summon that benefits you, that reinforces your character and allows you to do more stuff would be really cool, because I feel like I don't know any gacha game that has an actual summoner as a class, yet so many gacha games pull from JRPGs overall, the entire JRPG genre, and like I don't know, a summoner class would blow my mind. Being able to go out and either farm summons, have like unique summons that are really complex and difficult to attain, like really rare ones. Don't put them in the cash shop though. That I fucking hate that. No, thank you.
Because I was like, oh, it like reminds me of like Pokemon almost. Like WUWA almost had it, but it's like echoes, like almost like artifacts. And then I thought of like Maple Story, because they do have like a summoner thing, but then you summon like 3 mobs, like a phoenix, a bird, like a polar bear, panda, and like that's all I could think of. But no, that'd be so cute. I think it's like aesthetic in a cute way.
Azure Premilia is kind of doing what I want. Yeah, it's not necessarily like a summoner, but you can, collect and then summon creatures to help you. So that was really cool.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So speaking of Azure Premilia, so I don't know if the audience, if you're watching, but Stix covers a lot of gacha news, and one of them is Azure Premilia. There's actually a lot of games. I don't know if you could, give us a sneak peek on any of them or your thoughts, because for example, like ANANTA, there was news of it, but I haven't heard of it. So any recent updates of any games in particular?
So I have a lot of contacts in a lot of studios. Arknights Enfield, ANANTA, Neverness. Unfortunately, the one studio I have no contacts in is Azure Premilia. What I do know is that their publishing license was set for January 2025, which meant they had a deadline to publish in China by January 2025. The publishing license does allow for you to delay by several months at a time. But given we haven't heard anything this month in January 2025, it's a safe bet to assume that it's definitely been pushed back from its originally scheduled January release date. Arknights Enfield, as we know, is holding a beta test, which I know you got access to, and so did I.
Yeah, come watch us on Twitch. Well, obviously not Twitch.
I multi-stream on both YouTube and Twitch.
Okay. More content for Arknights Enfield. I'm really excited because I wasn't in the last beta at all, but I heard like they changed it up maybe.
Very different game in this one.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I think someone mentioned like it's just completely different. I was like, oh, okay, that's exciting then, because I can't wait to see it.
They're pulling a WUWA.
Ooh, I see. Yeah, the trailer, or it was a trailer teaser. One of them looked really exciting. Aside from Azure Premilia, what about ANANTA?
I'm not allowed to say much about ANANTA, but
Okay.
I am, the devs did reach out to certain content creators to open relations with them for content coverage.
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
I didn't get access to the local offline technical test that they're holding right now. But it was held, or is being held, in January. And they are very far through the development process at present. They have not finalized the game yet, and they're still making changes. They're still touching things up, but it really isn't that far off from what we have been led to believe. And I think that is probably going to be the next big gacha, if I'm being honest.
Ooh.
From what we've seen and heard from behind the scenes. If they can live up to the quite the grandiose expectations that we have as players. There was, however, a beta tester that compiled a list of thoughts that he had, and then also went on to note the different features that were present in the offline technical test. I covered this in a video, but essentially the TLDR is that there is going to be an online functionality like GTA Online, which could potentially open up, a much larger multiplayer aspect of the game. There is going to be an outfit system built into the game by default rather than being introduced at a later date. Unlike games that have, individual character outfits, these outfits are going to be warped around every character. So every character is going to get like gym clothes, or going to get like a business suit, bikinis, which was an interesting point that they made sure to make a quite the focus on. But and this doesn't just apply to females too. Like the guys are going to have their own variants of it, and all of these are going to warp and shape around each individual character's body. They're using a new kind of like skin outfit software or something to create this. It's all very cool. Like there are a lot of different aspects of the game that are really going to, I think, allow for it to distance itself from the current competition if they can successfully implement all of this. Because a lot of these were, in theory, implemented, but they did state that not everything was good quality. There were some things that definitely felt a little janky and, subpar, I think. But we're still a little ways off of releasing, so.
I haven't had any news with ANANTA, so like hearing you talk about it is like exciting. You're getting me excited for this game that I'm anticipating. There's so many games. There's also another trailer that I think we saw last year was Duet Night Abyss.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder when they'll be posting that as well, just because there was like, I think Duet Night Abyss with ANANTA, with NTE, along with Promilia. Is there any other games that had showcased their trailer that
Arknights Enfield?
Yes. Oh yeah, Arknights, I think this year there will be a lot of gacha coming out.
Yeah. No, there are.
And I hope yeah. I was like, I'm really excited to give them all a try, I did see another game recently called like Black Beacon. You played that, right?
They sponsored me to play it, yeah. I've been covering that for about a year now. It is essentially
wow.
Did you play Reverse 1999?
Yes, I did.
Did you play Punishing Gray Raven?
No, I did not.
Did you play Honkai Impact?
I played a little bit in the very beginning.
Did you play Ether Gazer?
No, I did not.
Okay, so look at it this way. It is the combat style of Wuthering Waves, less flashy and a little more limited, but it is a similar combat style to WUWA.
Okay, I haven't played it, but I've seen combat and gameplay of those games.
So Black Beacon has the combat style of Punishing Gray Raven with the narrative and storytelling style of Reverse 1999.
Oh.
Really deep, complex, thought-provoking, incredibly voice acted, time travel-y, timey-wimey stuff, but then really fast, fluid action combat. It is... I've finished 70% of the beta so far. It is so freaking good. Unreal.
Dude, wow. When I played Reverse, I won't lie, like the storytelling was just amazing, and the art style, and like I just remember playing on stream, and I played the entire chapter 1, like instead, because it was a sponsor and usually you just play it for 2 hours, but like I just played the entire chapter. I was like, you know what? I think this is a really good game. And then I just do like viewer polls for fun, but since then I haven't really played much, but I do like want to get back into it because I think the story is like beautiful,
It is one of the better gacha out there.
Oh yeah. So speaking of gacha, so like obviously for me, I play more like the mainstream ones. You tend to play like a lot of smaller ones. What is like one, okay, I say smaller, but it's probably not even small at all. But what is like one game you would suggest for people to try out that you don't see a lot of people trying out? Or I guess even for like creators especially.
There is a very small, very obscure gacha game that doesn't really have any creators that I think deserves a lot of attention. It's called Genshin Impact. No, I'm just kidding.
R&D company.
Yeah,
indie company.
exactly. Small indie company needs our all of our hard-earned money because they can't afford to feed their families, pay their employees.
Exactly.
God. A gacha game that I think deserves like attention and more coverage and everything, like that is released or that is upcoming.
Released. That is released.
So I play. You are right. I do play a lot of non-mainstream gacha games. And that is because I feel like, with the exception of like Arknights and Nikke and WUWA, I feel like there are already a lot of creators that cover all these different games. So if I'm going to invest time and effort into playing a gacha game, it's going to be something that I can also cover. That isn't necessarily covered by people that, do like guides and everything that average hundreds of thousands of views, because there's no breaking into that. There's no point in even trying. So I tend to cover games that I enjoy, that I can also cover. And I think the smaller games out there that are worth trying that most people seem to ignore for whatever reason are games like Guardian Tales and Ether Gazer and Reverse 1999, because they are all, well, I mean, Reverse 1999 and Guardian Tales have some of the best storytelling in gacha as a whole. They are really high budget games, but they're also done by much smaller studios, and I think for whatever reason they make very efficient use of whatever they earn, and they have crafted some of the best stories that I think the entire gacha genre has to offer, but so few people ever talk about them. Every time I do a video and I mention Guardian Tales just in passing, where I'm like, yeah, I love Nikke, I love Arknights, but I also love Guardian Tales, there'll always be a group of people that are like, holy crap, dude, you mentioned Guardian Tales, I love that game, no one ever talks about it. And it's a hidden gem. Just like Reverse 1999, although, Reverse is much more mainstream than Guardian Tales, but I think, if you're looking for a game like old school Zelda, Guardian Tales is where it's at. If you're looking for a narrative-driven game with beautiful storytelling, scenery, environments, characters, and voice acting, Reverse 1999, both of them are much more obscure than any of the big gacha games out there right now, and I think are where I would, I guess, tell people to invest time if they're not interested in one of the mainstream games for whatever reason.
It's actually funny that you mentioned Arknights Story, because when I was talking about story on my first episode for the podcast, people were like, "Oh, you haven't mentioned Arknights." So now you're like the first person I've talked to that has played it and has enjoyed story. For someone like me who has never played Arknights, how would you describe the game? Because I have thought about trying it out, because I like trying out games as well, but it's one of those where it's like I don't have like the push to try it. So
it is a horrifically convoluted mess. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a way where they could condense 75% of the story and it would make just as much sense. It is one of those games that are overly complicated for the sake of being overly complicated, right? There are so many scenes that just have an overabundance of, for whatever reason, talking when it is completely and entirely unnecessary. It is, I feel like if you were to make a comparison to any game out there, it'd be like, similar to Punishing Grey Raven in the setting of the game. I finished Arknights up to the current chapter, 20-something chapters, I think. No, 4. Oh, shit. I'm going to get called out for that.
Lot.
I don't know how many chapters it is. It's a lot of chapters.
Wait, no, it's still a lot. What is the premise of the Arknights story?
So you're the doctor, and you're essentially on this planet that, and by the way, just want to quickly preface this by stating that Arknights Enfield is entirely playable without having played Arknights, because a lot of people are, making the assumption that you need to play Arknights before playing Enfield because there's, I don't know, some connection there that Enfield is a sequel or something to Arknights, and where in the reality is that it is set on a different world, in a different time, I believe, as well. So, it's entirely playable separately. I just want to make that known.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I actually do. I really think that's good, disconnecting them like that, because there are like crossover characters between games that do have, interestingly enough, different names as well. But so basically, from what I've gathered, like even in Arknights, they're like kind of modern, kind of futuristic, and the world is, destroyed, overrun. You're basically leading or a part of a force that is helping, reclaim, save the world. Your average gacha experience. It starts off very basic and then progresses. It gets much more deeper. It gets much deeper as the game continues. It delves much more into like political conflict, faction-based warfare. It is very character driven. Like a lot of each chapter seems to have a central focus around like a different faction or a different political force, and therefore different characters, because each character or each faction has a set number of characters that are involved in it. So what I mean by convoluted is that there is a lot going on in the game, and if you're not paying very close attention, you're gonna miss things, misinterpret things. It's not as simple as like in Genshin and in WUWA. It's like, oh, I walked into this area, they're the bad guys, we're good. I just gotta beat those bad guys and everything's fine and dandy. In Arknights, it's just like, oh, here is a faction, here are 7 more factions, here are 10 more factions. They don't like them, they like them, they're allied with them, but they're enemies with that person, and then there's, interpersonal conflict between them. It's like Game of Thrones as a gacha game.
You need to map it out. You gotta like literally put down the face name and then draw like an arrow in relationship and then mark down what the relationship is so you remember. It's like that.
It is really good though, don't get me wrong. It is really good. And I've probably messed up part of its history, like the story, because it's been 3 years since I played the beginning of Arknights.
Oh yeah, that's the way you're describing all these games, like I kind of want to check it out now. What the heck? You're good at like talking about these games and like expressing excitement, so it makes you like want to check it out. Just seeing you express excitement over it. Another question I had, now that I think about it, is like, so you're like the news anchor for like Gacha Games, right? Or to me, you're like the news. Like if I want to find some news, oh, I know where to go because you cover a lot of things. I wanted to know, like, this just personally, like also probably for the viewers, like where do you go to find these resources? Because every time I click on a video, you always have like an article from like the official source or something that like, I probably would never ever find. So yeah, like it's a lot to keep up, like where do you go to look for these?
Well, I have a number of different sources. One, Twitter.
Okay.
People love tweeting at me with links to Chinese, Korean, Japanese websites. Another is Discord. People love DMing me with links to official sources of information. There is Reddit, which I love. Just, I'm on Reddit every time I take a dump, and I see something and I'm like, oh, that sounds like an interesting topic. So then I will go and search for the original source. I'll search for more information, and then, I'll fall into that rabbit hole. But a lot of the things I cover are probably, I keep up to date with a lot of what is happening with different gacha games that I cover. But a lot of other topics that get brought to my attention are actually from viewers, because I didn't start off like this. I started off having to do a lot of like very rigorous research onto every different game, trying to seek out information. Nowadays, people just constantly send me all these different things, and I'm like, that's great. Y'all are doing my job for me. I just sit here and compile the information, or I react to the information. But you guys are doing all the hard work and getting me the information that makes it easy for me to make it more digestible.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's nice. Yeah, because especially like if they want something to be reacted to, then they'll send it right away, because like at least for me, if I don't see something, then I probably won't react to it. But then if they send it to me directly, then I'll see it and then I'll react to it. So it's like a guarantee that the footage, the coverage that they want you to look at will be covered nonetheless.
Hmm.
That's really sweet. That's really sweet of them. My goodness.
Yeah, it's essentially like they're part of the channel too in that way.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a community group effort, you know. Cuz I've had people send me as their lane brown dust 2 to react to, you know. Um and I'm not going to lie, normally I would never see those on my feed just cuz I haven't been on like Twitter. But then when I see those skins and how like busty the girls are, it just makes me laugh. And then we have like a good time because then I'm able to like react to these like games, and then only for them to like get restricted on YouTube, and it just creates like a fun story all in
Hmm.
all. So yeah. Um I have one more question, and so I actually this ties back to like Stix lore. I actually wanted to know like when did you first start streaming?
I originally started streaming with my little sister Wiggy back
Aw.
1 year after starting MMOByte.
Mm.
Um, this was back when you needed like 1,000 concurrent viewers to get like Twitch partnership, and we're only averaging like 400 to 600 at the time, and there was absolutely no way we could achieve just playing MMOs, 1,000 concurrent viewers. So we ended up, oh god, we streamed twice a day, 7 days a week
Wow.
for 3 to 6 hours, and then we also did YouTube videos. So that was about 7 years ago, and then I quit, and then I started streaming again at the beginning, or about several months into COVID, because my wife, Mrs. Stix, she was like, "Hey babe, I'm kind of missing like connecting with people," so we started streaming so we could just talk with our community in an easier way, and then it grew to hundreds of people watching, and then unfortunately she went back to work, and that has largely inhibited my ability to stream because now I only go like once or twice a week, and at the same time it's at during times that are not typically scheduled. And then I also enjoy streaming a lot more on YouTube now because with how the channel's grown, like
Yeah.
YouTube is where a lot of the audience is, so then Twitch has suffered, but YouTube is growing, and it's just a whole mess. But started streaming originally like 7 years ago, and then stopped for 4 years, and then got back into it during COVID at some point.
Oh, yeah. For me, I actually never thought about streaming at all, you know. And then COVID happened, and then that's when I discovered Twitch because I was like, what the heck? Like, I've always been on YouTube, so
Mm-hmm.
I've seen YouTube videos. I never watched any YouTube live streams, which is crazy. So, like, to think about like a creator's journey when they had first started versus now is like insane. Especially hearing from you because, like I had mentioned, we met through a game, and then we also met
Years
at
ago.
Anime X. Yeah, I know, right? We also met at AX2 for the first time.
Yeah. No, that was fun.
I think that was my second convention. And so, like, the first time I met so many people, second time I met even more people. And it's always like a nice feeling, you know? Um, Basically, like tying into like when you first start streaming and then suddenly like you're meeting creators in the same space.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was just curious. And then aside from gacha, like, what do you do outside of gacha?
Like for work or just like pastimes, hobbies, or like.
Yeah, yeah, like hobbies, you know?
So I wake up at 4 a.m. I work while Mrs. Dixie gets ready. I drive her to work at 6 a.m. I stop by the grocery store after dropping her off. I work out for
Oh.
3 hours. And then I work more, and then write up videos, record them, edit them, and then I go get a little more cardio in, cook dinner, do the dishes, do all my dailies and gacha games over the course of the day while working out or while working, and then I go pick her up. And on the days where she doesn't work, we sit here and either play games together like Pal World or Valheim
Oh
and
my
stuff
god,
like
Power
that.
Road.
You
Yeah.
liked Pal World? Dude, it is
Dude,
so good.
I totally forgot to mention, but like I was so obsessed with Power World. But the thing was, when it first came out, I hated that I had to like if my character bugged out, I had to delete it and recreate it again, or, like
Really?
do it again. But then now I've been seeing a lot of updates, like the Terraria collab and whatnot.
Yeah.
I haven't played Power World since basically February of last year. How is it now?
I don't know. We played it for like 2 months straight, and then we haven't played it since. But the big expansion with like the new region and all the new PAL and everything, definitely has us wanting to go back to it, but
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
I am absolutely swamped with sponsors right now. Do I get 100 sponsorship emails plus per month, and I work with
Oh.
like 3 to maybe 5 per month, and there are just so many incredible games to play, so many incredible games to cover that I struggle to find the time. It has become a detriment, I think, to my day-to-day activities because they give me access to everything. They're like, here, beta test, alpha test, technical test, do the sponsor for this and that, and they're all for like big budget games or really cool looking upcoming games or games that I've worked with in the past. So I feel like every day I'm working on a sponsor at least. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good thing. Honestly, being busy is good, and I think it's even cooler that you have time to like work out and whatnot. Because not gonna lie, like I don't have a lot of sponsors, but I feel like I'm busy all the time. And starting this year, I'm just now like making sure I work out like an hour each day. So that's inspiration. Very inspirational.
Hey, that's that. Doing my cardio is when I get my dailies done. So
Whenever I'm like walking or stretching or something, that's like okay, that's my time to like log in. But then I guess for me, I'm like a whale, so I kind of don't need to. I feel like when you're free to play, I feel like when I'm free to play, I need to log in every day. But now that I'm a whale and basically all of the games, I just take my time with it. I log in. I play Nikkei though daily. That's what I do. That's what I make sure I do.
yeah, I have not missed it logging into Nikkei since the middle of September of 2023. I've been playing it
Wow.
for I think 15 months, 16 months straight. I've not missed logging in for a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that every time like reset, you have the commander level up and basically tracks like your days, how many days you played it. Because every day you basically level up. So yeah,
Hmm.
no, I only started the game back up when Cinderella dropped. So I've been
Okay.
playing it since. So it's been like a month or two at least in gaming.
I feel
Uh,
like a lot of our conversations are like because I feel like we're the kinds of friends that are like you can talk to each other each day or you can talk to each other once a month and it doesn't really make any difference, right? So
yeah.
so you and I are like we're the kinds of friend that is like, hey, did you see the new Nikkei update? And then the other person's like, yeah, it looks really cool. And then a month goes by, and then one of us will message the other and be like, hey, did you see the new Nikkei update? And we're like, oh yeah, are you
Yeah.
excited for that character?
No, wait, yeah, that's like literally every like creator relationship. It's just because like okay, especially for me, I do forget, which is like a bad thing. I've been working on messaging more, but then it's like we all know it's like in good faith that like we're keeping busy. I see you post all the time. I see you stream. So yeah, but it's a healthy one, I think. Especially that we both know that we're doing something and we're not like purposely ignoring each other.
Yeah, exactly. I have too many gacha and MMO content creator friends where
Exactly.
I genuinely do like the vast majority of them, but I do not want to talk to them every day. Like,
Dude, yeah, it's like especially because like I think with gacha, it does become repetitive, and then unless there's like a patch, then it's like oh something exciting, but yeah, same old most of the
mhm.
time. But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about for today's episode. I had a really good time. You gave a lot of good insight. I still like think about your advice that you have, and then of course what you said about like for new players between Genshin and WUWA, like just a lot of good overall insight, and advice. And of course you play Arknights Story, and you were like telling me about it, so I had a lot of fun talking about it. Stix, do you have anything else to say to the audience? You can
I
go ahead,
genuinely
promote
appreciate.
yourself. Oh, go ahead, promote yourself.
I don't need to. I appreciate being brought on. I always love chatting with you, whether it's via text or video or voice call or whatever. Um, it's always a lot of fun. I love playing gacha games these days. Um, I think the genre is really only going up from here with all
Yeah,
the
this year.
yeah, but like I think with the evolution of games, I think things are only going to get more expansive, more elaborative, and I know a lot of new content creators that have come into the space recently and want to grow, and they don't really know how to or if they should. And I think you can probably relate. I know a lot of people, a lot of other creators could probably relate, but I think the first major step is to just do it. And now I think is the perfect opportunity to, with all these new incredible gacha games that are coming, I think this is the time to establish yourself as a creator. Not just that though, it's also the time to find a game that's different, you know, to what you're currently playing, or if you're burning out, or if you're bored. Like, there has never been a point in the gacha genre where we've had the diverse selection that we not only have now, but will have at the end of this year. So, you know, diversify. Get into other games, get into content creation, just take that step and do it. That's it.
And then of course have fun while you're at it. And then, like you had said, I think there's never it's too late to start. You know, if you had just start, like, you'll catch up or you'll find your flow eventually. Because I think a lot of things, not even like gacha, just like content creation in general, people are afraid to start. So like, just start, just do it.
That's my advice. At the end of the day, just do it.
Yeah, exactly. Just do it. All right. Thank you so much for being on here and chatting with me for a lot of things. Chat, please go make sure to check out Stix, aka MMOByte. He has a lot of channels. I'll link them down below.
Unfortunately.
Other than that, oh no, wait, it's cool though, because actually I realized a lot of YouTubers have multiple channels. And then, like, if you think about it, if you hit the 100K, you just get a lot of like 100K, you know, YouTube plaques.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's it's also okay. I'm not like YouTube brain, but I do think like to grow a channel again and again and again is like really cool. You know, that means you're doing something right. You know how to YouTube. And so yeah, I need to learn.
Hey, you're making great progress. You're making great progress on your own though. So
thank you, chat. This is like lore, but I think this whole like one-on-one talk was definitely like a part of my journey was having Stix interview me, I guess, if that makes sense. So like, I think maybe twice, I won't say like twice or three times, I've had a call with you where you would interview me and ask me for like opinion stuff. So yeah, that's a little bit of lore.
There you go.
And now I'm the one being the host.
I'm on the receiving end of it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. All right. But yeah, let me know down below what you guys are looking forward to for the next gacha game. There's a lot. If there's any advice for new players and one advice that you suggest for all gacha gamers. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out Stix once again. Bye-bye. No!